Gunnery Sergeant Arlie Ermy here. Listen up. Did you ever wonder how warriors went from throwing stones to laying down serious firepower? This is your lucky day. On this episode, it's all about rockets.
From ancient little firecrackers that pretty much look like ancient little firecrackers,
Yeah!
to the very latest tank-killing long-range missile.
Direct hit. Oh, yeah. So bring it on. And let her rip, because it's time to lock and load. Hoorah! Now that's what I call 15 pounds of pure devastation. This little honey here is the AT-4 rocket launcher. The AT-4 is a modern version of what's been a staple in warfare for hundreds of years, the rocket. But how'd all this rocket business get started in the first place? Good question, Einstein.
Well, it all started over in China way back in the 9th century.
A couple old boys were playing around with a combination of sulfur and saltpeter when they lit the stuff on fire and they blew up. Two things happened. Number one, their house burned down. And number two, gunpowder was born. Boom!
Pretty soon, they figured out how to use gunpowder as a weapon. 12th century, Chinese rocket. Range 350 yards. Warhead, black powder.
A rocket is nothing more than a tube. It's covered up on one end and has a hole in the other end. Fill it up with some kind of accelerant, fire that baby up, and it's go time. The thing blasts off like a rocket.
The earliest record of rockets being used as weapons is in the early 1200s, when the Chinese shot arrows of flying fire at that mighty Mongol Genghis Khan.
Good old Genghis knew a good thing when he saw it. After they whipped up on the Chinese, the Mongols added rockets to their arsenal and took them on their victory tour across Asia and all the way to Eastern Europe.
Me? I've come to Southern California to meet John Van Norman. He builds rockets for fun, and he's made up some of these ancient Chinese weapons especially for me.
Tell me about this rocket.
It was just basically a piece of bamboo, either tied around with hemp rope or was laced with other bamboo. A stick was attached to steer it.
How accurate they are.
Not real accurate, but most of the time it scared the horses and caused everybody to scatter in different directions.
I imagine so. Now, does this thing explode when it lands?
Yes, it does. It has a small warhead up in the front end, and the rest of it was all black powder.
These rockets have two compartments full of black powder. The first shoots the rocket skyward. The one at the tip is the warhead, designed to explode and hopefully set an enemy camp on fire.
Okay, well, I'm anxious to light this baby up and see if we can hit that target out there, that's for sure.
Let's give it a try.
Absolutely.
Our enemy camp is this stack of straw, and it is well within range.
Now, there's no damn way I come all the way out here in the middle of the desert to not blow something up today. So let's just, without further ado, blow something up. Here we go. We have fire.
A little right, but the distance is good.
You know, the wind got it. That's what happened.
Well, that's strike one for the Chinese rocket.
Now, that's pretty awesome looking rocket, though. That sucker took off pretty good. I was pretty happy with that. We just missed the target.
Imagine if you were riding a horse across there right about that time.
Oh, that'd probably It frightened me a little. Well, it wouldn't scare me. Probably scare the horse a little bit.
The horse.
I'll tell you what, we have some more of those?
Yep, we sure do.
Well, let's reload.
Let's do a little re-aiming and reload.
Lock and load. Let's go. Oops. Good to go. We've got her lit up. Here she goes.
Well, that's just plain embarrassing. Strike two.
Well, now.
Remember we were talking about accuracy?
Yeah, but that would have scared hell out of the bad guys. We've got 2 more shots. This one and 1 more, and that's it. If we don't hit the target, no, they wouldn't fire me. Okay, here we go. Fire in the hole. Look out, it's on fire. It's gonna go. Let me say a few appropriate words over this baby. Go get 'em, Tiger. You go get 'em.
Maybe the third time we'll be lucky. Third time's the charm.
That's got possibilities now. It ain't over till the fat lady sings. Oh, look at it. That wind's taking it to the right again.
Again, good distance.
About 30, 40 feet to the right of the target. But the target is undisturbed, is what the problem is.
That's 3 shots and still no results.
So we've only got 1 shot left.
Now, in my book, failure is not an option.
So what's happened is we have moved our little rocket launcher a little bit closer to the stack of straw. Now we're ready to go, and I think we'll be able to hit it this time. What do you think, John?
I like the way you think.
Okay, let's go for it. Here we go. We have ignition. Wow, that was exciting, wasn't it?
What'd you put in that thing?
Well, at least this time, we managed to burn the enemy's bridges.
You know, it's not about the hit, it's about the quality of the fire afterwards, because you can see that we totally decimated that straw stack. There's no question about that.
But if you were this close to a real enemy camp, you might as well just reach out and set it on fire by hand. Fired off one at a time, these rockets are just too inaccurate. But a couple 100 years later, the Koreans figured out a surefire way to guarantee a hit. 15th century. Hwacha. Range, 500 yards. Warhead, arrow tip, and black powder. What the Koreans came up with was a wooden cart that shot 200 rocket-propelled arrows at once. The individual rockets weren't any more accurate, but the Koreans figured there was safety in numbers.
So, yeah, and you got 200 of them. You launch them all at the same time, basically.
Yes, we do. And as you can see, each one has a nice little arrow on the tip.
Now, this arrow is no joke, fellas. And with the rocket to send it on its way, it was possibly the most formidable weapon of its time.
The Koreans used these arrow-spewing hwachas to help fight off the invading Japanese. You see, samurai warriors used to attack in dense formations. Perfect fodder for a hwacha attack.
I think you ought to give it a try.
Do we have a target?
We need to fight off an attack from some watermelon samurai and a few dozen balloon soldiers.
Okay, fire in the hole, ladies and gentlemen.
One smart design feature is that all 200 fuses are linked. Makes it easier to light than a birthday cake.
Burn you?
Nope.
Okay.
Here we go. There's the second 2. There's the third. how'd you like to
Now,
have that raining down on you?
that was worth every nickel of it right there. That was beautiful is what that was, wasn't it? But that is an awesome piece of machinery. Was that as good for you as it was for me, honey?
Well, how about that? We finally scored some direct hits.
Look at the carnage. This is awesome.
Good shooting.
Hurrah, yeah, it was. It was fun stuff. We'll do this again.
It takes 10 seconds to fire off all 200 arrows. That's a big step up from the old Chinese one-hit wonders, the ones that hardly ever hit. But even the Hwacha's success is more down to the power of numbers than anything else. Accuracy was still the rocket's #1 problem.
Sorry to bust your bubble, partner. Next up on Lock and Load, we're going to talk about some rockets that inspired a guy named Francis Scott Key. You know, rockets, red glare, and all that. All right, Devil Dogs, for those of you out there who have a short attention span, we are talking about rockets here. Up until the end of the 1700s, targeting a rocket was pretty much hit or miss affair. Well, as the 1800s came around, two men did an awful lot to help propel rocketry forward and make them more accurate. Their names were William Congreve and William Hale. These guys were so impressed with their work that they even named the rockets after themselves. No, they weren't called William rockets. They were called the Congreve and the Hale. And they were a hell of a lot better than the Chinese rockets ever thought about being, too.
1805, Congreve rocket. Range, 3,600 yards. Warhead, explosive and incendiary. Congreve's big breakthrough was to make his rocket out of metal instead of bamboo. Seems kind of obvious to me, but I guess somebody had to be the first.
Now, the Brits used these rockets against the Yanks way back in the War of 1812 when Congreves were fired against Fort McHenry. A certain Francis Scott Key was inspired by their red glare. Well, you know the rest. It turns out the red glare was about all they were good for. Even with all the tinkering, they still weren't on target. A better rocket was called for. Enter the Hale.
1846, Hale rocket. Range, 3,000 yards. Warhead, explosive. William Hale took Congreve's design and put a whole new spin on it. He added little vents around the base that let the exhaust gases spin the rocket to help keep it flying straight. The exact same way a football does. This meant Hale could ditch the guide stick, making his rocket more streamlined than the Congreve. It stayed in use for almost 50 years, from the Civil War right up through the Spanish-American War of 1898.
I'm here with my buddy Eric Gates. Now, we're getting ready to demonstrate rockets and play with these things, the Congreve and the Hale. Which is the most effective?
Well, this had a longer range because
Yeah.
we're losing thrust spinning this one.
Okay.
But this one's more accurate. So longer range, more accurate.
Uh-huh. What's the difference between these and the ones the Chinese made?
Well, we got a lot bigger on ours, and both of these were able to be launched out of a tube, which increased their accuracy. The Chinese, all the sticks were on the side. So we got a little bit better accuracy, and we got a lot bigger because we're in steel rather than bamboo.
Well, let's see how they work. I'm kind of anxious to see this thing go off.
Let's get one in the launcher and let it rip.
I'm with you.
Well, we said that Hale's rocket spun like a football. So, what better way to test both these babies for accuracy than a set of goalposts?
Okay, I've had the boys set up a regulation goalpost out there, and we're gonna have a little contest, see which one of these babies is the most accurate, Mr. Hale or Mr. Congreve. May the best man win, that's all I can say.
Now, for those of you out there who are a bit slow, the objective of the exercise is to score a field goal and get the rocket between the posts. First up, the Congreve.
Oh, all right, up to the old bomb shelter here. Yeah, now how long is this gonna take before this thing goes off?
About 45 seconds to a minute.
Okay, the target may have moved 3 or 4 different times by then, right?
And in the day, yes.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Maybe we had a little too much weight and not enough powder or something, but that was kind of a fizzle, wasn't it? As far as the field goal, short. I don't know how you at home feel about it, but I think we could have done better on that one.
The Congreve's metal case might have made it more powerful, but just like the ancient Chinese contraptions, they couldn't hit the broadside of a doggone barn. Time to give the Hale a go. Those little vents are supposed to improve its accuracy. Let's see.
Okay, now, this is gonna take a little teamwork here. We're a team. Oh, we have ignition. Now you're thinking this got to do a little better, right?
Oh, this thing's gonna hum.
Okay, well, that's a good thing. All right, we're burning down here now. I'll give it a 10, 3, 2, 1, and blast off. Well, there you go. Now that's what I'm talking about. That was a pretty good shot. That went out there about a mile, didn't it?
Went out quite a ways.
A perfect field goal by the Hale. It goes right between the posts with plenty of height to spare. Trouble is, neither of them did any damage. And I have a feeling you'd prefer to see both these rockets do what they were built to do, and blow something up.
So, we're gonna shoot them off in a group at a target, a brand spanking new target that we've set up downrange. Just so happens it is the broadside of a barn. I tell you, it's all ready to go. Should be like the grand finale down at the high school on the 4th of July. You know, boom, 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 boom. It's all this coming out at one time.
I think at this range, we can't help but to hit it.
3, 2, 1. My God, we got the barn on fire. Well, all I can say is it was quite a fireworks display. I don't know how many times we hit it, but I see some big old holes in the barn. Let's go check it out.
Sounds good.
Now, if this had been an enemy encampment instead of a plywood cutout barn, you can see why rockets were starting to be taken seriously as a weapon.
Now you can see where one went through down here sideways. Now, well, that would have taken some troops out. We got shrapnel up in here. Look, some big nasty piece of something went through there. Well, that's some pretty serious damage. I mean, you know, that's a mortal wound. There's no question about that. If that had hit somebody in the coconut, a rocket obviously went through right there. Well, there you go. Congreve and Hale rockets can hit the broadside of a barn. You just have to move them up real close and have a lot of them, that's all. Coming up next. rockets get a kickstart. We're talking rockets here. Now, back in the 1800s, the old-time rockets just weren't cutting it. So, the Army chiefs got together and they gave them the old heave-ho. What the military was looking for was more bang for their buck. They wanted something that was powerful, that they could aim and actually hit the target with.
During World War II, the Germans mastered rocket technology like never before. Their terrifying B-1 and B-2 rockets were the size of fighter planes and could fly hundreds of miles. But they weren't built for regular battlefield use. America created a smaller rocket more suited for combat, the bazooka. Pretty much the first ever man-portable rocket launcher. It was deadly to thin-skinned German vehicles and even took out a Tiger tank during the 1943 invasion of Sicily. But it was far from perfect.
Sometimes the rocket would get stuck in the tube, and sometimes the damn thing would blow up. And the backblast and the smoke trail was so obvious it would give your position away. And once they spotted you and they knew your position, you were hamburgered.
One thing they did get right, though, was how to deal with the recoil. As the rocket is propelled forward, the backblast shoots out the rear of the tube, balancing out the forward momentum of the rocket. It's called recoilless action. The bazooka kicked off a whole tradition of hand-carried recoilless rocket launchers that saw action in Korea and Vietnam.
But technology marches on, and now every Tom, Dick, and Harry wants to get his fingers in that pie. Well, surprise, surprise. The Swedes figured out how to make something other than meatballs. It's the AT-4 rocket launcher. Hoorah!
1981. AT-4 rocket launcher. Range, 600 yards. Warhead, 84mm high-explosive anti-tank.
The AT-4 is designed as a disposable launcher. Each round of ammo comes packed inside the tube. Once launched, it's fire and fling.
The AT-4 really kicks butt. It fires a warhead that's 3 times more powerful than the bazooka.
What makes the AT-4 such a powerhouse is its massive 84mm round. Get it? AT-4. Boy, those Swedes are really funny, aren't they? But what is no joke is the round, which has enough juice to rip through 14 inches of armor plate.
And this is the engineering that makes it possible. That 84mm high-explosive anti-tank round. As the round hits the target, a huge explosive force pushes the metal in front, right through the armor. It only makes a small hole. But because the AT-4 carries more explosive force than the bazooka, it continues on to explode on the other side of the armor. They call that beyond armor ability. And I'm gonna learn how to use one, then test its firepower against a tank at Fort Benning, Georgia. Hoorah!
I'm here with Sergeant Lawrence, United States Army, and we're playing with Sergeant Lawrence's toy. Tell me about it.
It fires an 84mm heat rocket, heat, which stands for high explosive anti-tank. So if you know what a Soviet BMP is, which is a armored personnel carrier, a Soviet BMP weighs approximately 14 metric tons. This weapon, the AT-4, which weighs 14.8 pounds and is 40 inches long, can easily destroy that BMP. When it penetrates, it's going to send shrapnel and blinding light throughout the vehicle.
A lot of heat.
Yes, sir.
Walk me right through it. This part of it would obviously go up on your shoulder.
Basically, you're going to hold this sling sort of like a pistol grip. You don't want to hold this like a rifle or down here. The sling is very important. It's not just for carrying.
Okay. Makes sense.
The fundamentals as far as acquiring a sight picture are a lot like a rifle. So it's basic principles. if you know how to fire a rifle, it's very simple to learn how to fire this weapon effectively.
So we got the sights up. Next step.
Where you're going to arm the weapon by placing the cocking lever in the fire position. At this point, the weapon is armed.
Okay.
The last thing, just like with most weapons, is you're going to acquire your sight picture before you fire.
Well, I'm pretty happy with that. Now, the next step would be, I guess we have to shoot it, huh?
Yes, sir. Ready? Aim. Fire.
No, knuckleheads, these are just practice rounds. They line up so you can see where they're going. And this line of sight aiming just like a rifle makes the AT-4 far more accurate than the earlier Congreve and Hale rockets. But don't you fret, devil dogs. I'll be firing the real thing as soon as I get my aim zeroed in.
Should be 300 meters right there.
Okay.
Aim. Fire.
I think that was just about right. But I think as far as distance goes, that's perfect. So I think it's good to go. Now let's shoot the big boy. Hoorah. Okay, whenever we're ready, I'm ready.
All right, I'm going to arm it right now. All right, ready? Aim. Fire. Nice one.
Direct hit. Oh, yeah.
Good job, sir.
Gotta tell you, that tank is dead. It's out of action. That is an awesome, awesome hit.
It has a bigger warhead, 6 pounds compared to the bazooka's 3 pounds, and a further effective range, 600 yards compared to 300 with the bazooka.
And it was a total, absolute thing of beauty.
And it's good against tanks, armored vehicles, even a small bunker. The AT-4 truly is anti-materiel.
Thing of beauty. And no recoil whatsoever, a little push. That's about it. The recoil all goes out the back, and then the rocket coming out the front, they kind of counterbalance one another. Ah, yeah! Makes me feel like a real man to be able to do that, you know? Punch a hole in that big damn tank down there. That tank is dead. It's out of action. It will never, ever cause us any problem ever again. Hurrah.
But the AT-4 is still only aimed by line of sight, just like the bazooka, the Congreve, and the Hiwacha. And that's no guarantee of a hit. Coming up next, you can run, but you can't hide. From guided missiles. Don't you move your butts, lard ass.
We're moving on to some really, really big guns. We're rocking and rolling with rockets. Now pay attention.
I'm fixing to tell you about the mother of all rocket launchers, known to the military as the MLRS. It's a go-anywhere vehicle that can fire up to a dozen high-precision, surface-to-surface tactical missiles in less than a minute and strike up to 30 miles away. But right now, I'm concerned with how we got to this point. I've already shown you the Swedish AT-4, a fantastic weapon for line-of-sight medium-range targets. But for longer range, you need a little help with your aim.
Direct hit. Well, the boys in R&D figured out a way to put a guidance system on a rocket. Now, what you got is a guided missile. And that's a whole new ball game.
The very first missile guidance systems The controlled rockets by wires were built by the Nazis.
Now, after a few decades of tinkering, we came up with our own version. The tow missile, that's this baby right here. It's a real beaut. And its little wires can guide it to a target more than 2 miles away. If you can see it, you can kill it with a tow.
1972. Tow missile. Range, 4,000 yards. Warhead, high explosive. The tow is a tube-launched missile. Through optical sights, the operator keeps the crosshairs on the target using a joystick. Data is relayed to the missile via control wires, so the missile goes wherever the crosshairs are pointed. And here at Aberdeen Testing Center, I'm gonna get a fire one.
The tow was developed in 1970 and first used in Vietnam in '72. We mounted them on helicopters and armored vehicles with only slight modifications. And it quickly created quite an impact. Its first month on duty, it racked up an incredible 24 tank kills. Today, the tow missile is a real workhorse and one of the most versatile and effective weapons in the U.S. military's arsenal.
In fact, it's the most widely used anti-tank guided missile in the world.
Trust me, you don't want to be in front of one of these things.
And I'm about to show you why. We're gonna fire one from this Bradley fighting vehicle. And there's a little square board about a half-mile away that I'm itching to put a hole in. With a little help from Jason Manchester, I've got the target in my sights.
Okay, we're about dead center, wouldn't you agree?
Got a good sight picture, Roger.
Now we switch from double to 13 times magnification.
Okay, and all I have to do is pull the trigger?
Pull the trigger and sound off.
Okay, missile away.
Now, as long as I keep the target in the crosshairs, the missile's gonna hit. A pair of fine copper wires uncoil from the back of the missile as it flies.
I'll be damned.
This provides an unjammable link from the operator to the missile, all the way to impact.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. We're just inches off the exact center of that target. And it's what, 800 or 900 yards away?
800 yards.
800 yards, that's about a half mile. Great, good shoot, hoorah!
With earlier missiles, it was point and pray. Once you hit the button, it was out of your control. But the tow lets you keep the missile on track just by keeping the target in the crosshairs with the joystick.
Mission accomplished. As slamming as the tow is, it still ain't the meanest kid on the block. The big problem with some of these handheld rocket launchers is the shooter has to stick around until impact, and that can make him a pretty damn easy target. Well, son, have I got news for you. This baby's called the Javelin, and you don't have to be an Olympic athlete to launch one. Matter of fact, once it fires, you don't have to stick around and guide this thing to its target. No, sir. It's fire and forget. No need to hang out and see whether you've rained on the enemy's parade or not. Fire and forget.
1996. Javelin missile. Range, 2,200 yards. Warhead, 18-pound anti-tank.
With the Javelin, you can sneak around a corner, punch out a tank, blow up a building, or even a helicopter.
And it goes one better than the bazooka or the AT-4. Instead of one explosive charge per missile, the Javelin has two. It's known as a tandem warhead. The first charge punches a hole in a tank's armor. Then the main charge is clear to smash clean through and reach inside. Hoorah! And at Fort Benning, Georgia, I've come to meet Staff Sergeant Lindemeyer, whose job it is to fire this thing.
This is the Javelin weapon system. It is a man-portable, medium anti-tank missile. Fire and forget.
Fire and forget means what?
That means once you've locked onto your target and you fire your round and leaves the tube, you can set the system down, take this command launch unit with you, and move on to your next position before that round even impacts the target. It works off IR imagery. The heat waves coming off your target create an image, and this system, this command launch unit, converts those heat signals into a visible image, which is what you lock onto.
Because the infrared sensors can see in the dark, there's no point trying to hide under cover of night. The Javelin is gonna find you anyway. And if you try to run, it's just gonna keep right on coming after you, all by itself. Say your prayers, sucker. That's even better than the tow, which still has to be guided manually after firing.
A single Javelin cost $80,000, so most of the training is done on simulators. Only the top scorer on the simulator has the honor of firing a live round. And believe me, it is an honor.
So, I'm gonna try my hand at the simulator.
Okay, let's put this heavy old monster up on my shoulder and see if I can hit any targets.
These simulators are kind of like kick-ass video games. They allow our boys to become experts before they ever fire a live round.
Oh, there it goes. Okay, direct hit. Well done. Even got sound effects. I like that.
And you got a 95 passing score for that exercise.
A 95, okay.
I did pretty good, if I do say so myself. But Second Lieutenant Carr here came top of the class, so pretty soon he'll be firing the real thing.
Well, I'm anxious to get started on this, and I know you're anxious because you want to shoot this baby, right?
You have no idea.
Matter of fact, as long as we're doing that, I have something here that is called my challenge coin. And as another reward for being top gun in the class, I want to give that to you, okay?
All right. Thank you very much.
Nope, my pleasure, absolutely. I believe you've earned it.
The Javelin is the latest technology in man-portable missiles. Light enough for one man to carry around the battlefield, but powerful enough to take out a tank.
Absolutely, direct hit. That sucker went out. That was a thing of beauty, gentlemen. Outstanding.
First class.
Good shooting. Smack dab right in the middle.
Take some of that. What do you think about that? Want some more of that?
And if you thought we couldn't top that, stick around and find out what can destroy 6 tanks with just one rocket. Ha ha! Hoorah! Listen up, couch potatoes. Gunnery Sergeant Arlie Ermy here, and I'm having a blast with rockets.
Now, the Javelin is a get-her-done kind of rocket. There's no question about that. But the military is always eager to lay down lots of hurt and do more damage. That's right. I'm talking about the mother of all watches. It's the MLRS, this baby right here, the Multiple Launch Rocket System. And this baby will put a hurting on you. There is no question about that. 1995. MLRS, Multiple Launch Rocket System. Range, 300 miles. Warhead, 12 M30 rocket. Now remember the Hwacha, that 500-year-old multiple rocket launcher from Korea? Well, the MLRS takes the same concept, multiple rockets being launched, matches it with the explosive warhead of rockets like the AT-4, and adds in the guidance and technology of weapons like the Javelin. That lets you put a missile where you want it to go. It is one of the most effective missile systems on the planet. The MLRS can fire 12 long-range rockets in less than 1 minute from a mobile launching platform. The onboard computer can fire rockets individually or in ripples of 2 to 12. That's this baby here.
It's got tracks like a tank, so it can go almost anywhere on the battlefield. And it can aim and launch up to 12 missiles in under 60 seconds. It can also launch 2 massive missiles, which can fly via GPS guidance to the target area before releasing 6 smaller submunitions that listen for the signature sound of their exact target, then guide themselves toward it before, of course, blowing it up. Look out!
This baby is awesome.
It's so awesome, I'm just itching to take it for a ride.
This thing handles pretty darn good, don't it?
Oh, yeah. Like a Cadillac.
Yep. Yeah, my 4-wheel drive Ford pickup truck is has to slow down for a lot of these bumps.
The vehicle itself travels at 40 miles per hour. Now that's faster than a foot soldier can travel lugging an AT-4 or a Javelin. And that speed's a real advantage on a fast-moving battlefield.
What's the range on the vehicle?
300 kilometers.
What does the gas tank hold?
Well over 100 gallons.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, the whole belly of the chassis is pretty much a fuel cell.
Well, guys, thanks a million for that wonderful ride.
Enjoy that?
Absolutely. I love this stuff.
Well, you know, that was a lot of fun, but I want to get out here, and I want to be standing back a little ways so I can watch the fireworks.
And here at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, they don't just settle for any old 4th of July firecrackers. No siree.
The MLRS is probably the most devastating weapon in our arsenal today. Certainly one of them, anyway. I put it right in the top 10.
This baby even allows the crew to fire off the full payload of 12 missiles from the safety of the vehicle's cabin.
Fire!
This weapon is phenomenal.
Now, I wanted to get down to the target area and see destruction close up, but they reckoned it might be a little bit dangerous. Huh. But even from this distance, the MLRS is a pretty darned impressive sight.
Ooh, this is tremendous stuff. I'm loving this.
As a multiple missile launcher, the MLRS is kind of like the old Korean Hwacha. But where the Hwacha could just about hit something 500 yards away, the MLRS can take out a tank at 30 miles.
This baby behind me is awesome. This is a great piece of machinery. You gotta love it. That is, unless you're the guy that's down there getting shot at with it.
Well, there you have it, we've gone from inaccurate rockets, lit with a fuse, to advanced guided missiles that can take out nearly anything on the battlefield. I'm Gunnery Sergeant R. Lee Ermey. Keep your powder dry and your eyes on the target.